The morning sun rose over Nova Sol like any other day. Captain Jiho stood at the window of the defense station, watching the city below come to life. Lights flickered on in homes. Transport vehicles moved along the streets. Children headed to school while their parents went to work. It was peaceful. It was home. "Beautiful morning," said his wife Sora, coming up behind him. She wore her white medical uniform, ready for her shift at the central hospital. She wrapped her arms around him and smiled. "Another boring day in paradise?" Jiho laughed. "I hope so. Boring is good out here." He kissed her forehead. Nova Sol had been their home for 5 years now. They had built a life here among the stars, far from Earth, but never feeling alone. 400,000 people called this colony home. SORA left for the hospital. Jiho watched her go, then turned to his duty screens. Everything showed normal. The defense satellites reported no unusual activity. The colony's shields were at full power. Trade ships came and went from the docking stations. Just another quiet day on humanity's frontier. Then the alarms started screaming. "Sir, we have multiple contacts," shouted Corporal Hyan from the scanner station. 20. No. 30 ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Unknown configuration. Jiho's heart raced. He ran to the command center. "Show me." The main screen lit up with dozens of alien vessels. They were massive dark ships with strange angles and glowing red markings. Nothing in Earth's database matched them. "Broadcast standard greeting protocols," Jiho ordered. "All languages. Let them know we're peaceful." The communications officer, Nari, worked quickly. "Sending now, sir." No response yet. The alien ships moved closer. They formed a perfect attack formation around the colony. Jiho felt cold sweat on his neck. This wasn't exploration. This was military precision. "Sir, they're powering weapons," Hyan said, his voice shaking. "Raise shields. Alert all stations." Jiho grabbed the emergency transmitter. "This is Captain Jiho to all residents. Seek shelter immediately. This is not a drill. Get to the underground bunkers now." The first blast hit the northern sector. The entire defense station shook. On the screens, Jiho watched in horror as a school building exploded in flames. Then another hit. And another. The alien ships weren't targeting military installations. They were hitting homes, hospitals, schools. They're targeting civilians. Nari screamed. "Why are they doing this?" Jiho tried to fight back. The defense platforms fired everything they had. A few alien ships took damage, but there were too many. They moved like wolves around sheep, methodical and cruel. Each blast was calculated. Each target chosen with terrible purpose. His communicator buzzed. It was Sora. "Jiho, we're under attack at the hospital. They're bombing us directly. We have hundreds of patients who can't move. We need..." The signal cut to static. "Sora," Jiho shouted. He tried to reach her again. Nothing but silence. On the screens, he saw the central hospital collapse in a ball of fire. His knees went weak. His hands trembled. "Sir, the southern shelter complex just took a direct hit," Hyan reported, tears streaming down his face. 5,000 people were inside, mostly women and children. The pattern became clear. The aliens were specifically hunting down areas where women and children gathered. Maternity wards, daycare centers, schools. They moved with intelligence and purpose, as if they had studied the colony's layout before attacking. "Get me a line to Earth," Jiho said, his voice hollow. Tell them we're being exterminated." An alien transmission suddenly burst across all channels. A harsh, clicking voice spoke through translation software. "Human specimens located. Genetic material required. Female subjects prioritize for harvest. Resistance is irrelevant. Harvest. The word made Jiho sick. They weren't fighting an army. They were being hunted like animals. The defense station rocked from another impact. Sparks flew from control panels. Half the screens went dark. Hull breach on level 3. Someone shouted. Jiho made the hardest decision of his life. Evacuate the station. Everyone to the transport ships. We can't win this. Sir, we can't leave them. Nari cried. They're already dead, Jiho said quietly. We have to tell Earth what happened here. We have to warn them. They ran through smoking corridors. Bodies lay everywhere. Some were his friends. Some were people he'd eaten lunch with yesterday. They reached the emergency transport bay, where 3 small ships waited. Maybe 20 survivors crowded aboard. As they launched, Jiho looked back at Nova Sol one last time. The entire colony was burning. Alien ships moved overhead like vultures. He saw them deploying ground forces, moving between ruined buildings. They were searching for survivors. Searching for women. The transport limped away into space. Behind them, Nova Sol died. 400,000 people. Gone. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. The survivors barely spoke. Many couldn't eat. They just stared at nothing, seeing ghosts. Jiho spent hours reviewing the data they'd managed to save. The attack footage. The alien transmission. The thermal scans showing which buildings were hit first and most often. The pattern was undeniable. The aliens had targeted human women with systematic precision. 80% of the dead were female. The hospitals and schools were hit before military targets. When they finally reached Earth, the world stopped. The news spread like fire. Images of Nova Sol's destruction played on every screen. The alien message about harvesting human women made people sick with rage and fear. Jiho gave his report to the United Earth Council. His voice was flat and dead as he spoke. They didn't come to conquer. They didn't come to negotiate. They came to take our women like we're some kind of resource to be mined. 312,000 women and girls died in 6 hours. They were murdered with purpose and planning. He looked up at the council members. Sora was one of them. My wife died trying to save patients in a hospital that was deliberately targeted. The aliens wanted her dead. They wanted all of them dead. Admiral Taiyang stood up. The old military commander's face was stone. What do you recommend, Captain? Jiho's eyes burned with cold fire. We hit them back. We hit them so hard they regret ever hearing the word human. We show them what happens when you murder our families. The council chamber erupted in shouts. Some called for calm. Others demanded immediate war. But everyone knew one thing had changed forever. Humanity had been pushed too far. Someone was going to pay for Nova Sol. Someone was going to burn. The United Earth Council met every day for 2 weeks. The debates were fierce. Some members wanted to try diplomatic channels first. Others wanted immediate military action. But the reports kept coming in, each one worse than the last. 3 more colonies had gone silent. When scout ships arrived, they found the same horror. Burned cities. Empty streets. The aliens, now identified as the Vraleth Empire, were systematically attacking human settlements and taking women. Some colonies had been completely wiped out. Others showed signs that women had been taken alive, dragged away to unknown fates. Jiho sat in the military planning room with his younger brother Do-hyun. They hadn't seen each other in years, but grief brought them back together. Do-hyun was a naval engineer, one of Earth's best. He spread blueprints across the table. We stopped building these ships 20 years ago, Do-hyun said quietly. The ethics committee said they were too aggressive, too dangerous. Ships designed only for war. Jiho looked at the designs. These weren't exploration vessels or defense platforms. These were warships, pure and simple, built to destroy enemies completely and efficiently. Can you build them? Jiho asked. I can build them in 6 months if I have full authorization. Do-hyun met his brother's eyes. But Jiho, if we do this, we're committing to total war. These ships don't have diplomacy suites or scientific labs. They have one purpose: to kill. Good, Jiho said coldly. The Vralith didn't come with diplomats. They came with guns. We respond in kind. A woman walked into the room. She wore black military fatigues and moved like a predator. This was Mira, one of Earth's elite special forces operatives. Her face was hard and her eyes were empty of warmth. My sister was on Nova Sol, she said without greeting. Her name was Minji. She was a teacher. She died protecting her students when the school was bombed. She looked at Jiho. I hear you're planning something. I want in, Jiho nodded. We'll need ground forces. If we're rescuing prisoners, we'll need soldiers who can fight in close quarters. I'll bring my team, Mira said. All volunteers. Everyone has lost someone. Over the following months, Earth transformed. Factories that once built civilian transports now produced warships. Training facilities expanded to handle millions of recruits. Every human who could fight wanted to fight. The waiting lists for military service were months long. Do-hyun worked 18-hour days. The new ships took shape in orbital shipyards. They were sleek and deadly, painted black to hide in space. Each one carried weapons that had been banned by previous treaties. Planet-cracking missiles, antimatter torpedoes, quantum bombs that could tear holes in reality itself. Are these even legal? Asked one of Do-hyun's assistants, a young engineer named Yuna. No, Do-hyun said simply. But neither is genocide. We're past legal now. We're into survival. Yuna didn't argue. Her mother had died on Nova Sol too. She understood. Intelligence reports slowly built a picture of the Vralith Empire. They were an old civilization, thousands of years ahead of humanity in some technologies. They controlled 15 star systems and had never lost a war. They viewed other species as inferior, useful only as resources or experiments. The reason for their attacks on human women finally became clear. Vralith females were dying from a genetic disease. Their scientists believed human DNA held the key to a cure. So they decided to take what they needed. They didn't ask. They didn't negotiate. They just took and killed anyone who got in their way. So we're lab rats to them, Myra said when she heard the report. She was in the training facility, teaching her team urban combat tactics. They think they can just grab our women and cut them open to study them. Did they ever try asking? Asked Junho, one of her team members. He was a weapons specialist who had lost his entire family. We might have helped if they'd come in peace. Asking would mean treating us as equals, said another soldier. They don't see us that way. To them, we're animals, resources, things to be used. The anger in the room was thick enough to cut. These soldiers trained with a fury that impressed even the veteran instructors. They practiced until their hands bled. They studied alien warfare until they could recite Vralith tactics in their sleep. Every single one of them had lost someone. Every single one of them wanted revenge. Admiral Taiyang oversaw the war preparations. He was old, nearly 70, but his mind was sharp. He had fought in Earth's corporate wars decades ago. He knew what real combat looked like. Hatred makes you reckless, he told the assembled officers. Channel it. Use it. But don't let it control you. We're not going out there to die for vengeance. We're going out there to win. To make sure this never happens again. He pointed at a star map. The Vralith have 16 major military installations. We'll hit them one by one. We rescue any prisoners we find. We destroy their capacity to wage war. and we make them understand that humanity is not prey. Jiho was promoted to Commodore and given command of the assault carrier. He named it Sora's Vengeance after his dead wife. The name was painted on the hull in letters 10 meters high. He wanted the Vralith to see it before they died. Myra brought her team aboard. There were 50 of them, the best fighters Earth had produced. They set up in the marine deck and immediately started training in the ship's combat simulators. Yuna joined as well. She had proven to be an exceptional pilot during training. Fast reflexes and an aggressive style that reminded instructors of old fighter aces. She was assigned to lead the carrier's fighter wing. Junho came as the weapons coordinator. He knew every gun, every missile, every bomb the ship carried. He had personally overseen the loading of the antimatter warheads. "For my mom," he'd whispered as each one was locked into place. The fleet gathered in Earth orbit. 200 warships, thousands of fighters, Marines and soldiers ready to deploy. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. But against the Vralith Empire, it might not be enough. The night before departure, Jiho stood alone in his quarters. He held a picture of Sora, taken on their wedding day. She was laughing, her eyes bright with joy. That woman was gone. That life was over. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the picture. "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry I couldn't save them. But I promise you this. The monsters who killed you will pay. Every single one." He placed the picture in a sealed locker. Then he put on his uniform and walked to the bridge. It was time. The fleet's engines roared to life. One by one, the ships jumped to faster than light speed. They left Earth behind, heading into enemy space. The war had begun. Humanity was coming, and they brought death with them. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vralith system. Alarms immediately started blaring. Vralith defense satellites detected them within seconds. The element of surprise was gone, but Jiho had expected that. "All ships, battle formation," he commanded from the bridge of Sora's Vengeance. The 200 warships spread out in a complex pattern that Do-hyun had designed. It looked random, but every ship had a specific position and purpose. "Commodore, we're being hailed by the Vralith," said the communications officer. "Put them through," Jiho said coldly. A Vralith appeared on the screen. It looked like a mix between an insect and a reptile, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed yellow. When it spoke, the translation software made its voice sound mechanical and harsh. "Human vessels, you are in Vralith space without permission. Leave immediately or be destroyed." Jiho leaned forward. "I am Commodore Jiho of the Earth Fleet. You murdered my wife. You murdered 400,000 of my people on Nova Sol. You took our women like animals. We're not leaving. We're here to take back what you stole and make you pay for what you did." The Vralith's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Foolish creatures. You cannot stand against the Vralith Empire. We have conquered 100 worlds. Your primitive ships will..." Jiho cut the transmission. "Target their command station. Fire everything." The first volley of missiles streaked across space. The Vralith had shields, but humanity had learned something important. Electromagnetic pulses could disrupt their shield generators for a few seconds. Long enough to get through. Junho coordinated the attack perfectly. First came the MP missiles, invisible bursts of energy that scrambled Vralith systems. Then came the antimatter warheads. The Vralith command station exploded in a ball of fire, bright enough to light up the entire system. "Direct hit," Junho reported with grim satisfaction. "Their coordination network is down." Vralith ships scrambled to respond. There were 50 of them in the system, but they had expected an easy fight against primitive humans. They hadn't expected tactics. They hadn't expected weapons that could pierce their shields. Una launched with her fighter wing. 60 small, fast ships that moved like angry wasps. The Vreleth fighters were bigger and more heavily armed, but they were slow. Una's pilots flew circles around them, hitting weak points that Earth intelligence had identified. "This is for my mother," Una said calmly as she destroyed her third enemy fighter. No emotion in her voice, just cold efficiency. The battle was chaos. Ships exploded on both sides. Human vessels took heavy damage, but they kept coming. For every human ship destroyed, they took down 2 Vreleth. The aliens had never fought an enemy this aggressive before. Most species ran when outmatched. Humans charged forward, reading power signatures from the planet's surface, reported the scanner officer. "Commodore, I think there's a facility down there. Big energy output. Could be a research station." Jiho's heart beat faster. "Are there human life signs?" "Scanning." "Yes, sir. Faint but there. Maybe 5,000 individuals. They're alive." "Myra, you're up," Jiho said into his communicator. "Get your team to the surface. Find our people and bring them home." "On it," Mira replied. She was already in the dropship bay with her 50 soldiers. They boarded armored transports and launched toward the planet. The descent was rough. Vreleth ground defenses fired at them, but Junho had already sent missiles to clear a path. Half the defense towers were smoking ruins by the time Myra's ships landed. They emerged into a nightmare landscape. The research station was massive, a complex of gray buildings surrounded by high walls. Guard towers overlooked everything. It looked like a prison more than a laboratory. "Breach teams move," Myra ordered. Her soldiers split into groups and moved toward different entry points. They carried the newest weapons Earth had designed, plasma rifles that could cut through Vreleth armor like paper. The fighting was brutal and close. Vreleth guards fought hard, but human soldiers fought harder. They had trained for this. They had dreamed of this. Every Vreleth that fell was revenge for Nova Sol. Myra's team reached the main facility. They blasted open locked doors and moved through corridors that smelled of chemicals and death. In one room, they found rows of medical tables. Human women strapped down, tubes and wires connected to their bodies. Many were dead. Some were barely alive. "Get medics here now," Myra shouted. Her voice cracked for the first time. She had seen combat before, but this was different. This was torture disguised as science. One woman on a table opened her eyes. She was thin and pale, but she was conscious. "Are you real?" she whispered. "We're real," Myra said, gently removing the restraints. "You're safe now. We're taking you home." "Hannah," the woman said. "My name is Hannah. I'm a researcher from Nova Sol. I've been documenting everything. The experiments, the torture, everything they did to us." Tears ran down her face. "Please, make sure people know. Make sure they understand what happened here." "I promise," Myra said. They found 5,000 survivors in the facility. Some could walk. Many couldn't. The medical teams worked frantically to stabilize everyone. Meanwhile, Myra's soldiers secured every piece of data they could find. Computer files, written records, video footage, all evidence of Vreleth war crimes. Back in space, the battle was turning. The Vreleth had sent reinforcements, 3 entire battle fleets responding to the attack. But Jiho had planned for this. The human fleet fell back, drawing the Vreleth ships toward a specific area. "Dohin now," Jiho said calmly. Hidden among an asteroid field, dormant mines suddenly activated. Antimatter explosives planted weeks ago by stealth ships. The Vreleth fleet flew right into the trap. The explosion was incredible. It lit up the darkness of space like a small sun. 2/3 of the Vreleth reinforcement fleet simply ceased to exist. The survivors scattered in panic, their tight formations broken. "Press the attack," Jiho ordered. "Finish them." The human fleet surged forward. They were angry. They were vengeful. They were efficient. Within an hour, the Vraleth forces in the system were destroyed or fleeing. Jiho opened a channel to all remaining Vraleth ships and stations. "Broadcast this on every frequency," he told his communications officer. When the channel opened, Jiho spoke clearly. His voice carried across space, reaching every Vraleth who could listen. "I am Commodore Jiho of Earth. You took our women. You murdered our families. You treated us like animals to be harvested. Now you understand your mistake. We will not stop. We will not negotiate. We will come to every system you control, and we will take back what you stole. Surrender our people and face justice, or we will dismantle your empire piece by piece. This is your only warning." He cut the transmission. Around him, the bridge crew cheered. They had won their first real battle against the Vraleth. They had rescued thousands of prisoners. They had proven that humanity could fight back, but Jiho didn't celebrate. He looked at the casualty reports. 15 human ships destroyed. 3,000 soldiers dead, including Yuna's best friend, a pilot named Quan, who had flown beside her since training. War had a price. They were just beginning to pay it. "Set course for the next target," Jiho said quietly. "This is just the start." 18 months of war changed everything. The human fleet grew to 500 ships as Earth poured every resource into the fight. Jiho's face appeared on recruitment posters across human space. "Remember Nova Sol" became a battle cry that millions shouted, but victory came with blood and tears. They fought 12 major battles across Vraleth space. Each one rescued more human prisoners. Each one destroyed Vraleth military installations. Each one cost human lives. The casualty lists grew longer every week. Yuna died during the assault on Vraleth Station 7. She had been one of humanity's best pilots, flying with skill that seemed impossible. But during the battle, a Vraleth cruiser targeted a human medical ship, trying to evacuate wounded soldiers. Yuna flew her fighter directly into the cruiser's main gun. The explosion destroyed both ships and saved 800 lives. Jiho attended her funeral on Earth. Thousands came to honor her. Her picture showed a young woman smiling in her pilot uniform. She looked so alive in that photo, so full of hope. Now she was ash scattered among the stars. She was 23, Jiho said to Myra after the ceremony. She had her whole life ahead of her. And now she's gone because the Vraleth decided we were less than animals. Myra didn't answer. She had stopped talking much after the raids got harder. Her team had rescued over 20,000 prisoners from Vraleth facilities, but many died before help could arrive. The things Mira saw in those prisons haunted her dreams. Junho was recovering from serious injuries. During a ground assault, a Vraleth explosive had nearly killed him. He survived, but lost his left arm and had burns across half his body. He refused to leave the war. The engineers built him a mechanical arm, and he returned to duty within 3 months. "They took my family," he said when the doctors tried to make him rest. "They took my body. They won't take my will to fight." The war hardened them all. Jiho barely recognized himself anymore. He used to love poetry and music. Now he only read tactical reports and casualty lists. He used to smile easily. Now his face was locked in a permanent expression of cold determination. But something happened that complicated everything. Hannah, the researcher they had rescued from the first facility, came to see Jiho. She had been working with Earth scientists, analyzing the data taken from Vraleth research stations. "I found something important," she said, spreading files across his desk. "The Vraleth didn't attack us for entertainment or resources. They're desperate. Explain, Jiho said. Their females are dying from a genetic plague that has no cure. It's been killing them for 200 years. Their population is collapsing. In 50 years, the Vrayles species will be extinct. Hannah pulled up genetic maps. They discovered that human DNA has a specific sequence that could cure their plague. That's why they targeted women. They thought our genetics held their salvation. Jiho stared at the data. So they decided to just take what they needed. No asking, no negotiation. Just murder and theft. Yes, Hannah said quietly. And there's more. I've been talking to some of the Vrayles prisoners we've captured. Not all of them agreed with the attacks. There was a faction in their government that wanted to approach humanity peacefully, to ask for help. But the military faction took control and ordered the massacres. The peaceful Vrayles were imprisoned or executed for defending human rights. Where are these peaceful Vrayles now? Jiho asked. In camps on their homeworld. Thousands of them. Waiting to be killed for treason. Jiho felt something twist in his chest. Anger and confusion mixed together. Are you telling me we could have avoided all of this? Nova Sol didn't have to happen. If the peace faction had won, yes. Hannah met his eyes. And Jiho, I think we could help cure their plague. If we wanted to. Our geneticists say it's possible. We could save the Vrayles species. After what they did? Jiho's voice was hard. After they murdered Sora and hundreds of thousands of others. You want us to help them? I want us to be better than them, Hannah said. They chose murder. We can choose mercy. Jiho threw her out of his office. He didn't want to hear it. For 3 days, he refused to think about what she said. But the words haunted him. We can choose mercy. Then Admiral Taiyang arrived with the main Earth fleet. 1,200 warships. The largest military force humanity had ever assembled. The fleet gathered at the edge of Vrayles space, preparing for the final assault on the alien homeworld. Taiyang was older now, his hair completely white from stress. We're ready, he told Jiho. 1 word, and we move. We can end this war in a week. Total victory. The Vrayles will never threaten anyone again. Because they'll all be dead, Jiho said quietly. Yes. Jiho looked at the tactical display. 6 billion Vrayles lived on their homeworld. 1 order and he could kill them all. Dahyun had built the weapon for this, a quantum torpedo that could ignite a planet's core and tear it apart from the inside. Ultimate vengeance for Nova Sol. But Mira brought him something that made everything more complicated. Her teams had infiltrated the Vrayles homeworld and found the prison camps where the peace faction was being held. She showed Jiho the video footage. Thousands of Vrayles locked in cages. They were starving, beaten, dying, and their crime was defending humanity, trying to stop the attacks, arguing for peace when their own government chose war. One Vrayles in the video spoke to the camera that Myra's team had hidden. We tried to stop them. We told them that murdering humans was wrong. We said all life has value. They called us traitors and threw us away. The alien's voice was weak. If you are watching this, humans, know that not all Vrayles wanted this war. Some of us believed in peace. Some of us died defending you. Jiho watched the video 3 times. Each time, he felt his certainty crack a little more. What am I supposed to do? He asked Myra. They murdered my wife. They murdered my people. They deserve to die. Do they? Myra asked softly. All of them? Even the ones who tried to help us. Even the ones who are in cages right now waiting to die for defending humans. Jiho had no answer. Admiral Taiyang called a meeting of all senior officers. The question was simple and terrible. Do we commit genocide or not? Do we wipe out the entire Vrayles species, or do we show mercy to some and risk them coming back? The debate lasted for hours. Some officers wanted total annihilation. Others argued for selective strikes against military targets only. Some, like Hannah, argued for negotiated peace. Finally, Taiyang looked at Jiho. The Earth Council has voted. They're leaving the final decision to you, Commodore. You lost the most at Nova Sol. You've earned the right to choose. Genocide or mercy. Revenge or justice. The fate of 6 billion lives is in your hands. Jiho stood alone on the bridge of Sora's vengeance. His hand rested on the firing console. One button would launch the planet killer torpedo. One button would avenge Nova Sol completely and finally. One button would make the Vreleth extinct forever. He thought about Sora, about the life they had planned together, about the children they never got to have, about her smile and her laugh and the way she believed in the best of people. What would she want him to do? The human armada surrounded the Vreleth homeworld. 1,200 warships hung in space like a sword waiting to fall. On the planet below, 6 billion Vreleth watched the skies and waited for their end. Jiho stood on the bridge, looking at the blue and green world below. It looked so much like Earth, cities and oceans, clouds and continents. So much life down there, so much that could end with one word from him. Myra brought the rescued Vreleth prisoners to meet him. There were 30 of them, thin and weak from their time in camps. They had been the peace faction, the ones who opposed the attacks on humanity. Their leader was an old Vreleth scientist whose name translated roughly as Keeper of Wisdom. Commodore Jiho, the old Vreleth said through the translator. His voice was tired. I know you have every reason to destroy us. My people committed terrible crimes against yours. I watched the footage of Nova Sol. I saw what our military did. He lowered his head. I am ashamed. I tried to stop them. We all did. But we failed, and your people died because of our failure. Why should I spare any of you? Jiho asked. His voice was cold, but not cruel. Your government murdered my wife, tortured our people, treated us like animals. Now you want mercy? No, the old Vreleth said. I do not ask for mercy for myself. I am old and have lived my life. But there are children down there who knew nothing of these crimes. There are Vreleth who protested the attacks and were imprisoned for it. There are those who would have helped you if they had the power. He met Jiho's eyes. I ask you to be what we could not. Be better than our worst. Show the universe that humanity is more than just another species that kills when given the chance. Hannah stood beside the prisoners. The cure for their plague is possible, she said. Our geneticists have confirmed it. We could save the Vreleth species if we choose to. It would take years of work, but it's possible. After everything they did? Jiho asked. You want us to help them? I want us to show them what they should have done from the start, Hannah replied. They should have come in peace. They should have asked. We might have said yes. Instead, they chose murder. Now we can choose differently. We can show them what it means to have real strength. Not the strength to destroy, but the strength to show mercy when you have the power to annihilate. Admiral Taiyang's voice came over the communication channel. Commodore, the fleet is ready. All weapons are armed. The planet killer torpedo is loaded and targeted. We await your order. Jiho closed his eyes. He saw Sora's face, her smile on their wedding day, her laugh when she told silly jokes, her kindness to everyone she met. She had become a doctor because she wanted to save lives. What would she think if he killed 6 billion people in her name? He thought about Nova Sol, the burning buildings, the screaming, the silence that came after. He thought about the 400,000 dead, the women and children specifically targeted and murdered. He thought about 18 months of war, about Yuna dying to save others, about Junho's missing arm, about Myra's nightmares, and he thought about the Vraleth in cages who had tried to stop it all. Jiho opened his eyes and pressed the communication button. All ships, stand down. Do not fire. The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at him. Sir? Taiyang asked, confused. I said stand down. Jiho turned to the communications officer. Open a channel to the Vraleth government. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. When the channel opened, Jiho spoke clearly. This is Commodore Jiho of the Earth Fleet. We have the power to destroy your world. One weapon and you all die. Your species becomes extinct. Total vengeance for what you did to Nova Sol and our other colonies. He paused, letting that sink in. On the planet below, billions held their breath. But we are not you, Jiho continued. You chose murder when you could have chosen peace. You chose to take when you could have asked. You treated us as less than living beings. We will not make the same mistake. His voice hardened. Here are our terms. The military leaders who ordered the attacks on humanity will surrender immediately to stand trial for war crimes. All human prisoners will be freed and returned to us. The Vraleth Empire will pay reparations to every family affected by your crimes. Your military will be dissolved and rebuilt under human supervision. You will submit to monitoring for the next 50 years. He took a breath. In exchange, we will share genetic research to help cure your plague. Freely given, as you should have asked for in the first place. We will help you save your species. Not because you deserve it, but because we choose to be better than you were. The Vraleth military government refused. Their response was defiant and aggressive. They launched one last desperate attack, throwing every remaining warship at the human fleet. It was suicide. Dohyun's weapons systems were set to precision mode. Human ships targeted only military installations and vessels. Vraleth civilian areas were left untouched. Within 6 hours, the Vraleth military was completely destroyed. Not a single warship remained operational. Myra's special forces teams dropped to the planet's surface. They captured the Vraleth commanders who had ordered the Nova Sol massacre. The aliens fought hard, but they were old generals used to giving orders from safe rooms. They didn't stand a chance against human special forces, who had trained for this exact moment. When the military leaders were in chains, something unexpected happened. The Vraleth people rose up. They had seen Earth's broadcast. They had seen the choice humans made. They had seen mercy offered when genocide was possible. The civilian population, tired of decades of military rule and aggressive policies, overthrew what remained of their government. A new Vraleth government formed, led by the peace faction that had been imprisoned. They immediately accepted all of humanity's terms. The war ended not with total destruction, but with justice and the possibility of peace. 5 years later, a memorial stood on rebuilt Nova Sol. The new colony rose from the ashes, beautiful and strong. The memorial was a wall of black stone with 390,000 names carved into it. Every victim of the massacre remembered forever. Jiho, now an admiral, stood before the wall with Mira and Dohyun. They came every year on the anniversary. Behind them, human and Vraleth worked together in the colony's research center, developing the cure for the genetic plague. Do you think we made the right choice? Mira asked quietly. Jiho touched Sora's name on the wall. I don't know if it was right, but I know it was what she would have wanted. She always said the purpose of strength is to protect, not to destroy. Hana had become humanity's ambassador to the Vraleth. The cure was showing promising results. Within a generation, the Vraleth species would be saved. Not through theft and murder, but through cooperation and shared knowledge. Ho taught combat tactics at Earth's military academy. He told his students about the war, about the cost, about the choices. We had the power to commit genocide, he would say. We chose justice instead. That's what makes us human. Young pilots trained under a program named in Yuna's honor. Her picture hung in every flight school, a reminder of courage and sacrifice. The galaxy had learned something important. Humanity would offer friendship freely. They would help those who asked, but threaten their families, attack their children, and they would become an unstoppable force. Not monsters, but protectors who knew when to show mercy and when to show strength. Jiho read the final inscription on the memorial wall. They took our women, our children, our future. We took their capacity to ever do so again. May this monument remind the galaxy, strength without mercy is tyranny, but mercy without strength is suicide. Humanity chose justice. We chose to be better. As the sun set over Nova Sol, human and Brayleth children played together in the streets of the rebuilt colony. A future that almost didn't exist, saved by the choice to show mercy when vengeance would have been easier. The war was over. Peace had been won. And humanity had proven that their greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their tactics, but their ability to choose justice over revenge, mercy over hatred, and hope over despair. The stars above shone bright with promise for tomorrow.